Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really getting into the weeds on the upcoming Western Conference Finals. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves versus the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, this is a big one. Lots of excitement around this series.
Absolutely. And we've pulled together quite a bit of material, game reports, expert analysis, even what fans are saying online.
So a real mix of perspectives.
Exactly. The goal here is to cut through all that noise, find the key insights, figure out what the predictions are looking like, and spotlight the players you really need to watch.
Okay, sounds good. Where should we start? How they got here?
Let's do it. So the Timberwolves, they took out the Lakers, right? 4-1.
They did, yeah. But it's interesting that closeout game 5, their three-point shooting just wasn't there. They really struggled from deep.
Right. But they still got the win.
Yeah.
And Gobert had a huge game, especially when the Lakers tried going small against him.
That adaptability, that's key. It shows they can win in different ways, not just relying on the three ball.
Totally. And then you flip over to the Thunder, their path was, well, different.
Very different. A clean sweep against Memphis first round. SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, was just phenomenal.
Looked unstoppable at times.
Yeah, but then they hit the Nuggets. That went 7 games.
A real battle. And winning that Game 7, especially in a rout like they did, against the defending champs no less,
Yeah,
that says something.
it really does. That's resilience. That's playoff experience earned the hard way. Even though they're a young team, it must have forged them a bit.
You have to think so. Now, linking this to predictions, it's funny how narratives change, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. We saw some fan discussions early on, maybe even looking ahead to next season, favoring the Nuggets over teams like the Wolves or Thunder because of that championship experience.
Right, the pedigree argument.
Exactly. But then Minnesota beats Denver, and suddenly perspectives shift, like drastically.
Yeah, performance trumps reputation pretty quickly in the playoffs.
And we saw one prediction, actually, that has the Timberwolves winning the series in 6 games.
Oh, interesting. What was the reasoning?
It highlighted Anthony Edwards, specifically his growth as a playmaker, not just a scorer, and also just the Wolves' overall youth and that defensive energy they have on the perimeter.
Okay, defense being key.
Yeah, and the prediction also suggested the Thunder might struggle a bit against Minnesota's size inside.
That makes sense. We just talked about Gobert, and they have other big bodies, too. What's your take on that? Timberwolves in 6.
It's definitely plausible. It really leans into Edwards continuing this upward trend and their defense really clamping down.
And there's another angle, too, right? About close games.
Yeah, someone pointed out that maybe Minnesota has the edge in the clutch. The thinking was, while SGA is an incredible scorer, maybe he hasn't been as dominant in those super tight late-game situations compared to when OKC has a lead.
That's a bold take, but playoff series often come down to those last few possessions, don't they?
They absolutely do. Execution under pressure is everything.
It's funny, we also saw some talk comparing defenses, like maybe the Warriors post-trade were technically a better defensive team on paper than the Thunder.
Right, that discussion popped up, but the Timberwolves still beat them.
Yeah, so it makes you wonder, is there something about Minnesota's defense, maybe a synergy, that goes beyond just the individual stats?
Could be. Or maybe matchups just play out differently in reality. And the fact OKC went the distance, 7 hard games against Denver.
That has to take a toll, physically and mentally.
You'd think so. And it leads some to believe that the Timberwolves, who many see as having an even better defense overall, might pose an even bigger problem for the Thunder.
Okay, so let's transition to the players themselves. Who are the key individuals we really need to keep an eye on in this series, starting with Minnesota?
Well, you have to start with Anthony Edwards.
Obviously, his scoring is undeniable.
For sure. But what's really getting noticed now, like that prediction mentioned, is how his playmaking has evolved, especially in crunch time. He seems to be trusting his teammates more, making the right reads.
He's not just forcing his own shot every time down.
Exactly. But there's this weird statistical thing happening with him in the playoffs.
Oh, what's that?
Okay, so get this. He's actually driving to the basket more often than in the regular season and taking more shots when he drives.
Right, sounds like playoff intensity, aggressive.
But his free throw attempts on those drives, way down, like significantly lower.
Huh. That is weird. Any theories why? Is he finishing differently? Are refs swallowing the whistle?
It's hard to say for sure. Could be a mix of things. But, if that trend continues, not getting to the line as much could really hurt their offense, especially when games get tight.
Yeah, free throws are crucial in close games. Definitely something to watch. Okay, who else for the Wolves has stood out?
Julius Randle. I mean, his transformation has been incredible.
It really has. He looks like a completely different player compared to his last playoff runs.
Yeah.
So much more efficient, assertive.
Right. The numbers are way up, obviously, but it's more than that. It's the decision-making, the confidence. He's been overpowering guys, even good defenders like Draymond Green in that Warriors series.
He gives them that reliable second option, that physical presence that can just get a bucket. That's huge.
It's a massive boost. They maybe weren't fully counting on being this good, and it adds a dimension OKC might have trouble matching consistently.
And then there's Gobert. We
Mhm.
mentioned him against the Lakers.
Mhm.
His presence in the paint is just always a factor.
Always. Rim protection, rebounding. He anchors their defense.
The big question mark, right? How does he handle the Thunder's offense? Specifically, Chet Holmgren.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Holmgren can shoot threes. He can pull Gobert away from the rim, potentially open things up inside.
Yeah, that spacing could neutralize Gobert's biggest strength.
Yeah.
That matchup, Gobert's defense versus Holmgren's offense, is going to be fascinating.
Absolutely critical. Okay, let's switch to OKC. Who stands out there?
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Has to be.
No question. The engine of their offense. Carry them against Denver. Just a scoring machine.
But, like we touched on, there's that little narrative bubbling up about the clutch moments.
Yeah, it's not saying he's bad late. Obviously not. But maybe not quite hitting that final gear of taking over consistently in the last 2 minutes of a tied game. Is that fair? Maybe not, but the perception is there.
This series is a huge stage for him to either confirm or completely dispel that idea.
Definitely. Then you've got Chet Holmgren. We talked about his offense stretching Gobert, but he's a two-way force.
He is. Rebounds, blocks shots, scores efficiently. A unique player.
But how does he handle the physicality, especially against someone like Randall?
That's the counter matchup, right? Can Holmgren hold his ground defensively? Can he avoid foul trouble while still making an impact? That's going to be huge.
If Randall can bully him, that's a big advantage for Minnesota.
And finally, for OKC, you have to look at their perimeter defenders. Lou Dort is the main guy. Maybe some Cason Wallace, potentially even Alex Caruso, if they need another body.
Their job is basically slow down Anthony Edwards.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, easier said than done. But if they can make him work hard, limit his efficiency, disrupt his playmaking, that could swing things OKC's way.
So we've laid out all these pieces, these matchups, these trends. Why does it still feel so hard to make a confident prediction?
Well, for one, Minnesota proved against LA they don't need the three ball to fall to win. They can score inside, they can defend like crazy, they can grind it out. That resilience is important.
That definitely builds confidence. And you add in the Randall factor, this unexpected offensive explosion.
Exactly. That wasn't necessarily baked into preseason or even early playoff predictions. He adds a whole different layer to their attack.
But then on the other side, you can't ignore OKC beating Denver in Game 7. That wasn't a fluke.
Not at all. To beat a team of that caliber on that stage shows immense growth and potential. They prove they belong right here.
It shows they can rise to the occasion.
But then we come back to that weird Ant Edwards free throw thing. It sounds minor, maybe, but in close games.
Every point matters. And if he's not getting those calls or not finishing through contact in the same way, that's a potential weakness opponents can exploit. It adds unpredictability.
It really does. And fundamentally, this series is just such a clash of styles, isn't it?
It feels like it. Minnesota's size, their physicality with Randall and Gobert, versus OKC's speed, their shooting, SGA and Holmgren's skill.
It's strength on strength in many ways. Which style wins out? It makes picking a winner feel pretty precarious.
Okay, so wrapping this up. This Western Conference Finals matchup, Wolves versus Thunder, it's shaping up to be absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, a real contrast in approaches and talent.
And these unexpected developments like Randall's surge or the whole Edwards free throw stat just add more complexity, things we maybe didn't see coming.
Makes it fun to watch.
Definitely. Will Minnesota's size and defense ultimately control the pace? Or will OKC's speed and shooting be too much? Will the predictions hold? We just have to wait and see how it unfolds.
It's going to be good basketball.
So as you watch this series play out, what do you think is the single most crucial factor? What's your gut feeling right now? This deep dive just scratches the surface, of course, and there's always more to unpack as the games happen.